Georgia, Washington Grays,
Linda Grays,
Christy Grays,
Benita Grays,
Mashita Grays,
Sandra Grays,
Vivian Grays.
Ms. Graves, how long have you been in Tibbee?
54 years, this September.
How is religion relevant in this community to you?
Oh, we had a strong religion background going on here in this area with the older people laid out, and they did an excellent job with teaching us and showing us the way to go and going by the Bible. And you know, we can't go wrong when we go by the Bible.
I think for me the most relevant thing about religion in this community as I experienced it is the avenue for social connection with people. Both churches in this community were really important, I think, to not only just shoring up a person's faith and a person's belief, but it was so important, at least to me, for social connection and that sense of community.
Anybody like to add anything to that?
I like to add unity. I think unity, the churches coming together allowed an opportunity for unity in the community. Regardless whether you were Methodist or Baptist, it was a place where we can all come together and feel like we were family. I love like the Vacation Bible School, the Sunday school, when we had joint Sunday school, Baptist Training Union, anything like that.
Anybody else?
Ultimately, it just gave us a solid foundation.
When you talk about those early memories, can each of you share one memory that you have of growing up here in the church?
One of the earliest memories for me that I really appreciate is your dad, Mr. Wicks, teaching a Sunday school class for, I think it may have actually been called the Young Adult Sunday School class, but it was for those of us who were in the later teenager years, maybe some people who were in college. I don't quite remember that, but it was always an interesting discussion, and it took, I think, some of the religious tenets and kind of gave a practical or applied perspective. I really like that ability to kind of take some of those religious tenets and apply them in kind of real world situations.
A memory that I have is of my dad, George Grays, coming in front of me one Sunday. I was chewing gum, and he literally just came and put his hand out. I spit my gum out, and to this day, I do not chew gum in church. So.
And I remember and thinking about, Sunday school classes. We definitely were interested in going to Sunday school, and it was always like you took pride in the fact that you sort of graduated from a Sunday school class and moved on up to the next one. Not only were you getting older, but you knew you were going to go and learn a bit more. And we took pride in that, graduating from a Sunday school class up to the next one. Yeah.
I can remember teaching the intermediate Sunday school class. Corky, you may have been in that class. And I think Ken O'Neill was in the class. But I remember one Sunday asking the question, and I didn't say question, I said question. And so Ken asked me, is there an R in question? So to this day, I pronounce question correctly. Thanks to Ken.
Well, I really remember all of the music because I remember singing Holy, Holy, Holy when I was about 3 years old. I always liked singing. And I remember when we had the Sunday school classes and I was taking piano lessons, I had to play the piano to let everybody know that the classes were over. And that was pretty cool because I really enjoyed playing piano and singing.
There's several memories that I have, but one of the ones that came to me when Chris mentioned my daddy
You might want to save it for later.
Yeah. What's his song?
But can I go back to the singing for a second? We used to have a member called Mr. Nat Westbrook that used to lead the songs for us. And I guess it probably lies in a tradition where maybe the whole congregation didn't know the words to the song, and there were certain people that knew the words to the song. And Mr. Nat Westbrook used to sing so many of the songs, so that's a fond memory that I have.
Okay. Ms. Graves?
And one other thing about that, you recall Vivian one day after Mr. Nat passed, Vivian said, "My dear, I'm gonna be singing the hymns now."
See how fond of a memory it is?
Okay. What things do you think the church can do today to grow? And you know, anybody that wants to chime in, just kind of take it round robin.
Well, my church in Miami has an outreach ministry. So we take it to the street and evangelize and bring in people, whether it's at parks or whatever. So,
Getting outside the doors.
get outside the doors.
It would be a great thing in this area right here if we could just get the people that right here in Tibbee to come. I believe if we would get the people right here in Tibbee to attend the churches here, then it won't be no problem to reach out to the other people. We got to get it together here, you know. Even though it's going, we've been going good since I've been in Tibbee all these many years. But it would be great if we could just reach the people right here in Tibbee.
I was looking at that question a little bit earlier, and I was actually thinking about it, but I think that if everyone would love their neighbors as themselves, you know, which is really the greatest commandment that we have, I think that if you just start there, so much can grow out of that.
And I also think definitely focusing on the youth, because I felt like we had that when we were growing up here. And I think you still have to do that to this day. Focus first on the youth.
When you think back to what makes that youthful experience so meaningful, how do you get that message out? Or how do you feel would be a good way of getting that message out? In terms of what this place means to you, and how do you exemplify that in your daily living, and what do you tell people about Tibbee?
I think for me, I just try on a daily basis to be the best person that I can. And just in being the best person that I can, hopefully that is modeling something good for people and for myself too.
One thing that I felt, or one thing I saw a lot growing up in this church as a young person, is that the members would always encourage us.
Yes.
I mean, and tell us that we sound so great when we were singing in the choir, which, you know, I mean, I guess we sound okay, but I remember even, well, not just the encouragement, but also, you know, gaining your ideas, you know, asking you for your ideas and making sure that you're involved in everything. And actually, it was really a great experience when Linda and I were younger. We used to have to go to the church conventions. Well, I guess we used to look at it as we have to go, and then I used to get to the point where I look forward to going to the church, to the Baptist church conventions. And I remember the first one that we went to was in Columbus. So they encouraged us and they involved us, to sum it up.
And there was always an adult there leading us.
True that.
Yeah, they didn't leave us hanging.
And really the way to get the children to do it, the parents first need to be in charge of their own children. Not only take them to, just bring them to Sunday school and leave them was good to bring them, but most time in this area, we had parents that came to Sunday school with their children. And they was good children. All of y'all are our children. See, that's the way we had it then, and see y'all still our children.
That's the way we feel.
Yeah.
If you have the store next door that sells the Rocky Roads and
The baby rooms for a quarter
after Sunday school, maybe to get more kids up in here.
I know how many times I cut back on giving in the collection plate to save money.
Guilty.
And ultimately, I guess that's my word, but prayer is the key.
It is.
Now, I guess in terms of your personal religious belief and how you demonstrate that, how do you demonstrate love in your daily religious walk?
By living it. Live what you talk about. Live what you know, what the scriptures say. And it doesn't lie. When it tell you what to do, it just meant just that.
Well, I will repeat myself again. I think the best way that I can manifest my belief in faith, or by being, that the best way that I can manifest my belief in faith is by being the best person that I can be, and empathic and compassionate and kind and caring on an individual basis as I encounter people and walk through life.
Well, we know that Jesus is love, and we as Christians are supposed to live a Christ-like life. So in living a Christ-like life, then we are being like Jesus, who is love.
Anybody else? Now, the final question to talk about today is, what do you want people to know about this little small community? I see you all wearing your family reunion and community reunion shirts. So that in itself is a way of showing us when you go back to your hometown, you'll have that. But what do you want people to know about this place?
This is one of the best communities to live in.
Ditto.
It's a community that is very supportive, extremely supportive. I think it's supportive and encouraging, and reinforcing of values, I think. Values that we learn at home got reinforced and supported in the larger community, the church community, the larger community. So it's just a great, solid place with good values.
I agree.
I've always viewed Tibbee as an extension of my family. And just, to kind of ditto what Linda said, whatever we learned at home was reinforced at church. What we believed in our household is what people believed in at our church. So it's a great foundation. It's a great learning place, so that when we left, we had that foundation to build on.
And I will say that the support was across the board, but I think one of the ways that this community was also very encouraging of people is in terms of education, pursuing an education.
Most definitely. And when we went to school, we saw people from the community teaching us, or that were principals.
Yeah, leadership positions.
Yeah, serving. Yeah.
I always say that some of the most educated people I know came right from Tibbee, Mississippi.
And anybody that we have brought to Tibbee, talk about Tibbee, go back and tell people about Tibbee, and say you need to go to Tibbee. They truly do.
Yeah.
Oh wow, awesome.
We truly take pride in where we came from, and we love to come back and visit.
We're the people we are because of Tibbee.
All right. That's right. Thank you. And we do want to get that history, I guess your dad and all the stuff that he did for the church and all that kind of stuff. At some point, no, I didn't want to go there. So, I know that's special. So you guys can get all that stuff together. Like, any pictures you guys have of working in the church, y'all as a family and all this kind of stuff, we'll talk about that. We'll make that as part of the historical piece of it. They cool, man.
Man, they make me look studious.
All right, then. All right, just listen to the question, answer them best you can, and briefly as you can.
Yes, sir.
Be detailed, though.
Okay.
All right, Richard. Here we go. Go ahead, go. Look at Corky, don't worry about these cameras here. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Can you kindly state your name?
My name is Eugene Sims, and I'm known in the community as Mooney.
How long have you been here, Tibbee?
I guess I've been here over 30 years. Yes, over 30 years. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it's over 30 years.
How is religion in this community relevant? You can speak in terms of both a member of the community and as a pastor. And preacher.
Amen. Well, you talking about years ago or?
Both.
Well,
Years ago in terms of your experience growing up and what you remember about it versus now and how you exemplify it.
years ago, I really always paid attention to the ministry more than anything in this church, you know, and I've learned from them good ways and other ways also, you know, and it has helped me out in my life so much by watching them and watching people in the church house pray, man, and coming to Sunday school and different things, you know, and more than anything too, I guess, was my mother, watching my mother, how she gave a true worship to God and praise, and it has really made me really take a look at being a Christian, really, especially since I've gotten older, and I see now where it was all coming from inside of me, man, by me being raised in this church, you know, and shown all the love that I was shown when I was a child, you know. And that's really basically it with me, you know, being a Christian, being here.
What are some of your earliest memories of growing up in this church?
Well, even right now, praise is a very, very serious thing in my life because God takes praise very seriously. Miss Eldora, that used to sit over in the mother corner over there, I watched her a lot, you know, and watched her praise with God. I watched my mom, you know, and to hear the hymns that they sung when they started up service, you know, I really loved that, you know, as a child even. And I guess it was always something about myself that I guess I didn't know at the time, that I really was getting into the service and hearing the preachers preach and the people worshiping God. I really took it at heart, you know, and I really didn't know back then that I was taking it really so much in, but since I've gotten older and I've accepted my calling in life, I really see now that I was really listening to these people, you know, and Mr. Tootie Carr's father, Charlie Carr, you know, I remember seeing them standing and everything, you know, and I didn't understand what all that standing was all about, but I see now what all that standing really meant for the Lord, you know, and I understand now, and it really stuck with me, yes.
What do you think we can do to grow the church?
Well, I just came back to this church. In fact, I haven't even joined, and the Lord's dealing with me about making this my membership here at this church, and it's real soon. It's probably sooner than some people think, but He's been dealing with me about it, and I've started trying to reach out to people already in this community, and that's what it's going to take, the church living in us as Christians, to go out and bring the people into God's house. And that's what it takes. And that's what it's going to have to be. in order to get more in this church, man. Because, I mean, the church isn't that full, but God, all the people in Tibbee, if we come together and minister to these people, you know, I'm not talking about every time you see them, you're talking about God, this, God, that. But you showing them true love, man, because God is love. And you show them that love, it's going to draw them. That's what the word says, kindness and love I draw me. And it's going to take love from us as Christians to pull people into God's house and show them the love that we have in us. And Tibbee has a lot of love in it. It does.
When you think about what Tibbee means to you, how do you foresee getting that message out to others?
Well, actually, I get the message out every day that I'm going away. I drive trucks, and I own my own truck. I just bought it about 4 or 5 months ago, and I'm out all the time with people. And I mention about this community to people all the time. Tibbee, this is where I was raised from a child, and that's basically how I do it. You know, it's just showing them the Christ in me. And that's something that I have to do, you know, as a man of God. I have to show people the love because God loves his people. And I love God's people because I love God. And that's basically how I do it myself, man.
What do you want people to know about Tibbee?
I want to know that this is a place, man, with a lot of love. I grew up here, and we have some very, very intelligent people in this community. We really do. And some loving people in this community. I know from when my father died at an early age, like your father, Corky, he was a father to me in so many ways. Uncle Joe was a father to me in so many ways. And there was other men that were fathers to me in so many ways, you know, and they had love for me, you know, and anybody that comes to this community and stay for a period of time, they'll find that this is one of the best communities that you could ever say that I want to be a part of or live in or visit even. This is a very, very nice place to visit, you know. And that's basically all I can say about Tibbee, man. I love it. You know, I've been away myself, but ain't no place like home. No place.
That concludes our interview. Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
Yeah, I know they had something. No, I was gone myself from this community, and matter of fact, from Mississippi for about 15 years. And I stayed gone a while. That was a while for me. And I really experienced being out there. You know, I went up north and I moved there and I started working at a candy company, and then I started building skyscrapers and went from there to this bank I worked at, and I left from there and I came back home. I had a dream of building a dog kennel. It was my dream. And it wasn't what God wanted me to do. He wanted me in a truck, an 18-wheeler. And I started to buy one when I first came back. I didn't know nothing about driving one. But it was a ministry for me in that truck, you know, and Lord knows I wouldn't want to take up too much of y'all time with my testimony, but God, one day I'll sit down and tell it to you. But I found my calling, which is being a minister, and I'm coming back to this church. I'm coming back to help Pastor Wesley that's here, because a lot of people in this community know me. They know me from when I was Mooney, but I'll always be Mooney. But the good part about it, I'm 3 Moonies, and I'm going to lead with this. First of all, I'm the Mooney that can be your brother, your best friend, you can talk to, call me any time of night. Next Mooney, I'll pray with you. And whatever you say to me, it stays with me, you, and God Almighty. The third Mooney, I will preach the gospel to you. And I will tell you what thus say the Lord. It might cut you, because I've had it doing it to me too before, but hey, you take those cuts and you apply them to your life and let it change you if it cuts you. But it's only cut with love. godly love. And I love y'all, whoever listens to this. And I love you too, Corky, and Maurice too.
All right, man. Hey, home, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Of course, it could have been a whole lot more said.
I know you could have.
I could have went on into testimony about when I used dope and everything, come back out and man, Lord, changed the brother life. You remember when I used to drink a 50 whiskey a day? Man, I can't complain.
So how many interviews you got the other day?
Hey, how you doing?
No, we got everybody. We done about 8 or 9.
I just seen that little girl right there. Didn't I just see you the other week?
Maurice taking like.
Didn't I just see her the other week? Hey, didn't I just see her the other week down here? Yeah.
Yeah, you said
I remember her.
you said Uncle James.
All right.
You been doing okay?
I'm doing pretty good.
Staying out the hot weather?
I'm trying to I still got bad home all over the time. We been paying for all kind of things. Been invited to all kind of things. When we ain't stopped by one, you get.
Ready to go, Corky.
Good afternoon.
Good
How are you two doing? Can you kindly state your names?
Odell Quinn.
Ruby Murray Quinn.
And Miss Quinn, how long have you been here at Tibbee?
Well, I was born here, but I left here in 1950 rather, and I came back in '94.
Okay, I was born and raised here in Tibbee. I spent the most of my life in Chicago. I stayed there for 42 years. And I came back here in 1994. So most of my time was spent in Chicago, but I came back home to where I was born at.
How is religion in this community relevant back then and now?
Well, to me, it was better at that time because people that had children, they made sure that they would go to church, Sunday school and church. And today, you don't see many kids in the church today. Their parents don't have that enthusiasm, excuse my language, like we had before. They would bring you to church. They wouldn't make you go, they would bring you. But today they don't bring them or make them come to church. And I think that's just really bad on the religion part of it. We just don't have the enthusiasm to do like the people did in the old days.
Ms. Quinn?
Well, I think that it's long years ago, people didn't have anything too much. And the little that they did have, they was grateful for what they had. So now the way I see it, I feel that the Lord have blessed them and they have more now than they ever had in their lives. So now they're more about just me, myself, and I. Long years ago, people was concerned about one another. If you had it, I didn't have it, I can say I had it too because you had it, because you were going to share it. But today, people they're not as friendly. They don't even with the service, they don't have service like they used to have. During that time, they didn't have no organs, no pianos. They didn't have nothing but stomping their feet and a piece of cardboard to fan with, and they would have service. You would walk as fast as you can to try to get to church. Didn't have automobiles. Most of them didn't. They had wagons or
mules and horses and things to ride. And everything to me was much better. It was more, to me, it was more love and more concern about one another.
And given that rich history, what do you think the church can do now to grow and re-emphasize that message?
Well, I believe that if our leadership will take more interest in the community where he pastor or she pastor, that get to know the people and the people know them, we will be much better and we'll have better service. I think it'll be more people saved. Right now, people out in the community don't know who is the leadership of it. And years ago, we used to fellowship with the church across the street. You might have heard about New Hope. Back in the years ago, we had a church up there named New Hope. And we were fellowship with those people on different Sundays. And that we don't have that today. So I feel that if the pastors of these churches would go out into the community and spend 90% out there in the community and spend 10% in the church, it would be much better for the community.
Well, like he said, everything is just so different now. People's, even during that time, people would have service and stuff in their homes. You could pass by older people's house and you could hear them singing a hymn. They have now, this young generation, they have got away from the Dr. Watt. And to me, that was the generation of the church. They don't sing hymns and stuff like that. Now they going with this new stuff. All these different dances and things that they are doing in the church. It's just a newer generation now. They don't want to go back to the old. The young people nowadays, they say that's old fashioned. But I think it was more better during that old time than it is today.
And I feel that if they were not do away with the old tradition, so some of that old tradition were good, condition. But now today it's all modified and everything. And people don't have that old time service. In fact, they don't have that old time religion like they used to have.
Old time religion.
Yes, sir.
Years ago, during that time, even when they have revival, I mean, some of it that they were doing, I feel like they didn't know any better. They were doing according to what their parents done. We had to go to the mourner's bench. But now, your little kid, they don't know anything about the Lord. And if their parents haven't been taught in their home, and they go up and they're gonna give a pastor their hand and say they want to be saved, and then they get baptized, and that's it. It's not a follow-up on that kid, even not only at the church, even in the home, and they're just seeing this. All they said, well, my child got baptized, and my child confessed the hope in Christ, and that's it. They're not concerned about the child's salvation.
And see, church is not going to save you. Church is in your heart. If you don't teach church at your home, the children are not going to have no churches in them. So it need to be taught. The prayer been taken out of the home. They don't pray. Kids don't know how to pray. When you're sitting around the breakfast table or the dinner table, it need to be prayer offered there. And teach the kids how to pray. Today, that hadn't been taught to the kids. So they raise up with no God in them, So I just believe that church should begin at home and spread abroad.
Now, in your rich history here with Tibbee, what do you want people to know about Tibbee?
What I would like for them to know is some of the history of Tibbee, what went on back in our lifetime when we were children. That would be sort of like helpful to them because they only be taught the modern time, but they need the history based on on the past anyway. And if they need to know something about what we done, what struggle that we went through. I went through a whole lot of struggles. And I feel that it'll be more education to our kids if they would do learn some of it.
Well, I'm like my husband. I feel like that, you know, that back at the old time, that some of that need to be taught to the kids and brought up to the kids. Don't be afraid to, ashamed to tell your kids about what struggle you had to go through. I told my kids what I went through with. And you know, even though that it was rough, but you know, right to today, I appreciate it. And I thank God for where he brought me from, you know, and that's something I'm not afraid of. I love to go back to my past and talk about how I was brought up and what I done and what I had to do as a child. You know, kids nowadays, they want everything on a silver platter. You know, they don't understand the struggle that you had. You know, nickels and dimes don't mean nothing to them. You know, so I feel like they need to know where you came from and the struggle that you had, and maybe with some of this being instilled in them, it would help them through life. You know.
Anything else you guys would like to add?
No.
That would be all
I
over.
apologize.
Well, let me say that I was born in 1933, and I'm 76 years old. We'll be 77 in next month. 76 in next month. And I came through the hard times when we didn't have food on the table for it was 10 of us in the family, plus my dad and mom. And by me being one of the oldest one, Curly Quinn and I were denied the opportunity to attend school like we wanted to. And many days I cried because I couldn't go to school. And we have to stay at home and provide, help our father to provide for the family. The rest of them, we have to go cut wood and haul wood. And then when farming time comes, he hired us out to different people's neighbors and friends to help make a living for the rest of the family. We used to plow from sun up to sundown for $1.50 a day, $7 some a week. But through it all, we made it. Sometimes we didn't have food in our house. We have to go next door to the neighbor and ask for corn to make cornmeal. And then we have to take it to the mill and they have to make it in. We come back and my mother prepare the food.
Now, if you were sitting today with a young kid that says to you, Mr. Quinn, I want to quit school, what would you tell them?
My advice, no. Go to school and get all you can, because it ain't no jobs like we used to do. You have to have a high school education to mop and sweep the floor. Today you need an education. My advice to be stay in school and learn as much as you can learn.
Thank you folks so much.
All right,
I appreciate you.
I hope I don't break y'all camp.
Oh, no. Thank you.
No, you're
I
welcome.
appreciate you
right.
hanging out. You know,
I hope that helped somebody. So that'll be shown when?
Well, what we're actually trying to do is we're trying to finish up the part on religion as close as we can by the end of the year and get as much of it done as possible. So Benita brought up a good point. It's scheduling sometimes, once we get everything edited and done, to have like a showing here at the church of the finished product of what it's like. And then, you know, part of that message is that we want to get out. And the reason that this kind of all started is because, you know, we knew that we were lucky enough to have people that always stressed to us the importance of getting an education. But then, you know, now how do you make that relevant? Because kids say, well, I can go out and make money, but then they don't have the foundation, like from that religious aspect or believe in those roots. So what we were trying to do with this is to kind of say, here's the rich history that you come from. You know, these people struggled, but we found a way to keep those values, and we focused in on, you know, all those things. We didn't, you know, just say this is all modern stuff and that things don't apply, because the verses of the Bible are just as relevant today as they were back when, you know, my granddaddy and grandmama were growing up. So it's still the same thing, the way that people live their lives, simple and focusing in on things that are really of value, like their religious belief. You know, we wanted to try to capture all that on film so that, you know, I can sit down with my boys when they get, you know, right now really, and say, okay, here's what you come from. You know, nothing less than perfection is expected of you, but then you have all of these people that you can call on, that you can go talk to. If you want, I mean, like my son, if he ever come to me and say, you know, Daddy, I want to quit school, I'm like, okay, you go talk to Mr. Quinn. You come back and tell me you still want to quit school. Once he start telling you about, you know, crying about not being able to go to school, and here it is, you have a chance to go to school free, and you're going to throw that away. It's like, you know, it's probably gotten even tougher than it was then, because like you said, you can go out and earn a living, but now kids can't go out and earn a living legally without an education. And even, you know, if you're doing something illegal, you still need to know how to add, subtract, and divide in order to make sure that folks paying you right. So
now we all have DVDs.
What we're going to do?
So later on,
we'll probably have like what I'm hoping to have enough material for DVDs, so then, you know, book, and then, you know, trying to do some type of music so we all come back to what the properties, sell the taxes, right?
yes,
and then we'll probably do a piece of we'll talk about religion and then go with some shots of all this talk about religion. We want to talk about military service, and you know, at some point we want to talk especially about education before that. And then again, you know, your testimony kind of really says, here's why it's important for your siblings, particularly chance to go to school. You know, seeing how they contrasted with how, you know, imagine how grateful they are to you and your brother for making that sacrifice so that they can be.
Right.
And that's something that you can sit down and show them and say, you know, here's, you know, the rich history that you come from, that are part of your roots. And, you know, you got people that come from all different backgrounds and stuff like that.
I've seen people sign that place.
Good person. So they can go and talk to that person. Feel right?
All right.
That's it. Thanks a lot. What? Those three. There's one on to a beautiful young one. There you go. Last one.
Yeah, I got one out of the way. With this preaching and talking stuff. I said, man.
Moving something a long way.
Yeah. It's all good, dog. Go home.
Those are the, well, talk a little bit about that kind of actually that, you know, get into, you're growing up here, going to the church and all that stuff. Good afternoon. Can you kindly state your name, ma'am?
My name is Cynthia Johnson Robinson.
And how long have you been here at Tibbee?
Well, all of my life, the first 18 years of my life.
And how is religion in this community relevant?
In this community, Tibbee community, I think that religion is definitely a big foundation in the upbringing of people, of children. I can speak for myself and my brother. We were raised in the church, and as I guess a child, you don't really know the significance of what church is. You just know that your parents just make you get up every morning, go to Sunday school, stay in church all Sunday, and you don't really know the foundation that's being built there. So religion is definitely a starting point for a lot of kids growing up in the community. And as you grow up and become teens and young adults, you carry that with you throughout your life.
What are some of your earliest memories of growing up in Jones Chapel?
Growing up in Jones Chapel, my earliest memories were getting up every morning, getting ready for Sunday school. My father and I going over to Sunday school, opening the doors because we were usually the first ones there. And we had a very small congregation during Sunday school. And I was taking piano lessons at the time, so that was my opportunity, I guess, to hone my skills as far as playing the piano. And I would always play the opening hymn for Sunday school. Whenever there were Christmas programs, Easter programs, I was always called upon to do solos or something of that nature on the piano. I would say those were my fondest memories, just being, I guess, the resident young piano player of Jones Chapel.
What are some things we can do to grow the church?
And that's definitely an interesting question, because I was the speaker at the Jones Chapel's homecoming last year, and that was a topic I actually spoke about that was somewhat related to what you're asking. In order to grow the church, I think you really have to reach out to the young people. I do realize that in a community like this, there are not a lot of young families or young people, but you could very well recruit from outside of the community as well. And I think it's important to get young people more involved in the church and sort of coax the older or mature members to be more open to the ideas that the young people might have in order to make the church flourish. So young people is definitely key.
Now, what do you feel are some key things that we can do to get that message out?
Well, one of the things you can do, you can create sort of an outreach ministry, going out to the different organizations, either like the Greek organizations, or you can go to the Boys and Girls Clubs, if there are any around here, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, organizations that foster that type of camaraderie or relationships built on Christianity, and where you would normally find young people who can contribute to the church.
Now, in your Christian or religious walk, how do you demonstrate the love that you grew up on?
How do I
demonstrate that in terms of how do you interact with people, and how do you use that foundation to build on in terms of your religious practice, and then conveying that into a sense of love for your fellow man?
Right. I think I'd exhibit it as far as my home life. With my husband, we show our love for each other in front of our son now. And we've noticed how affectionate he is, how loving he is as a child. And by showing that, how a husband and a wife are to be in the home, loving in the home and loving towards your child, we exhibit that in our home life. In my work life, I exhibit it by being respectful of my colleagues, not necessarily getting caught up in the politics or the, I guess, backbiting and gossiping, that sort of thing, but being respectful and the golden rule, treating people like you want to be treated.
Now, if you had to leave people with any impression of Tibbee? What do you want them to know about Tibbee?
Oh, Tibbee is, for me, is just home. Whenever you get away from home and you get caught up in the rat race of work, your own family life, running around and everything, I always like to come home to relax, just to get away from it all. And especially if you're moving to a metropolitan city where you don't have the country life of what Tibbee is, it's just so refreshing just to come back here and just see how it's developed with new houses, but they're not sort of crunched together like you would in metropolitan cities. But just being home and how open it is and the clean air, and it's just refreshing for me.
Anything else you want to add?
I don't know. This is a great project. I'm really proud of you guys.
Well, thank you.
So I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Well, we appreciate your
hope
time.
it's a
Thank you.
success.
We will definitely be in contact.
Okay.
That's a wrap.
That's short.
You did good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Good seeing you
All
too.
right. Take care.
Say what? Oh, was I the last one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We appreciate you.
Yeah,
So now you're gonna be to work.
Yeah, just get the lights on and take it back to the mom.